So these are some face plates that I've just finished clear coating. These are for the 93 limited edition Miatas. And if you follow my channel or you're well versed in Miata land, you know that these stereos are pretty sought after for the 93 limited edition, especially when the OEM stereos have been removed. But also some of the higher trim level Miatas that got Body Sonic built in got these stereos, like mine did as well. But these came out really nice. You know, I've refurbished about 60 of these stereos so far, and each batch typically comes out better than the one before as far as the faceplates. The one thing I wish I had a solution for, I do, but it's too expensive and nobody would pay for it, and that is to silk screen the graphics on rather than using water slide decals, because you can see the outline of the decal and there's not a heck of a lot I can do about that. I really don't like this, but for the price, I can't beat it. Having them all silk screened would be a process that I just cannot afford. And like I said, none of my customers would pay for it. So anyway, these do look pretty good though when they're put together and installed. I do have enough parts at this time to build 2 functioning stereos. So there's a possibility that I may be offering some of these up for sale soon. Hang tight on that. I don't know whether I'll eBay them or sell them on the forums, but I would expect a fully refurbished unit to go for about $600 to $700. That's about what I'm estimating, based on how hard these are for me to get and how much time and effort goes into restoring them. They're not cheap. If you're looking for a bargain, you gotta look somewhere else. Hey, at least I'm honest. So let's talk about some equipment that I use in my shop and kind of why I chose it and how I use it. So that's something else. We'll start with our power supply. This power supply was one of the first pieces of equipment that I bought for this business. This I bought used, obviously, because it predates me by about 30 years. This machine was built in about 1962. I actually found a production date inside. It might be closer to like 65. But this power supply is damn near 60 years old. It works just as well as it did 60 years ago, and I don't think it's ever been serviced. This machine, I chose this power supply because in every shop that I've worked in previously, they've always had a vintage Power Designs power supply somewhere in the shop, and they are just rock solid, bulletproof, no bullshit, no nonsense. As old as this thing is, it still provides current limit. So if there's a short circuit in the device I'm working on, it will alert me. You'll see it, the amp draw spike, and the current limit light comes on, and it will actually, it will not allow that to continue. So it automatically cuts the current off depending on where the setting is. It's a very simple unit. You've got your rough voltage adjuster and your fine adjuster as well. And I'm dealing with just straight 12 volts, so it runs max all the time. The only thing I had to do to this was replace the pilot light. That pilot light needs to be there because you've got to know when it's on. So if the light's not working, you could potentially cause some damage. So you want to make sure that thing is working. Moving on, this is a Luxo Light. I bought this. This was the second purchase I made for my business. This is a 1982 vintage Luxo Light, brand new in box. And it was a premium. I paid a little bit of cash for this. But I love these old Luxos. Nice magnifier built in, which is very handy when you're detail soldering. And I use this especially when I'm inspecting the Panasonic boards for the Miatas. The early Miatas. Those boards are notorious for solder breaks, even on working stereos. And this comes in handy when I'm just looking for solder breaks. I could upgrade to an LED light and a digital microscope, but I sometimes just like doing things the old way, the old-fashioned way. That moves me to my favorite piece of equipment, well, my second favorite, the Hacko FX888D. This is a digital soldering station. Features, I think it's 7 presets. Let's take a look. Oops, is it enter? Or is it, oh, I forget how to, there we go. 2, 3, 4, 5, there's 5 presets. I don't recall what the temperature ranges are, but I I generally have this thing set to between 600 and 700 degrees. I should note that I do set it to Fahrenheit, so that's not 600 degrees Celsius. If I had to say that, you never know. This soldering station I have had, it was actually, no, this was technically the first piece of equipment that I ordered. But these retail for about 120 bucks, and it is the best $120 you will ever spend on a soldering station. Not only is it Japanese made, but it has multiple accessories that can be added to it. You know, the number of tips that are available for this thing is incredible. And you can even get aftermarket tips as well. This one's starting to look a little haggard because it gets a lot of use. But I think I've replaced the tip once, and I think I'm going to probably do it again. I mean, I don't really need to, but I switched out the original flat tip for the cone tip. I think I actually do prefer the flat tip. So when I do replace it again, I'm going to go with the flat tip on it. It comes with this base. Now, one of the things you've got to worry about when buying Hacko products is where you get the equipment from. There are counterfeit Hacko dealers or suppliers. There is literally, this soldering iron set right here is so iconic that, yes, there are counterfeits. So if you see one of these for sale, brand new for 50 bucks or 60 or 70 bucks, it's probably a counterfeit. I can't believe that. People are counterfeiting soldering irons. But that just shows you how good of a product this is, because it's the one that a lot of hobbyists and small shops go for because of its price, reliability, expandability. There's a hot tweezer set you can buy. I don't do a lot of surface mount, so I don't have the hot tweezers. It's for, you know, surface mount resistors, capacitors, etc. It also has a very unique design to it, which the base actually has a signature on it from the designer. Design Toshiyuki Kita, I think that's what it says. So design, but yeah. Anyway, so that's either it's a design house or the actual designer, I don't know. But I love this soldering station, and I am considering buying a second one. I'm going to use this, move this one over to my rough workbench, which is over there. That's for all the big stuff and junk. And then I'll probably get another one for in here and start over. But I love this. I love this thing. This is probably my second favorite piece of equipment, but my favorite soldering iron. At this point, after buying this, I have become a Hacko whore. I will only buy Hacko, even though there probably are better options, with one exception, and I'll get to that in a second. This is my FR301. This is the Hacko desoldering gun. This is their budget grade vacuum desoldering tool. I featured this in a couple of my... Must be clogged. What the hell? You know, it's funny. This has never once acted up. Never. I grab the camera, I make a video of it, I'm singing its praises. Let me clean maybe there's something stuck in there. Hold on. It comes with this little tool here. There we go. Okay, I think it's fine now. I think what happened was there was some solder in there and it hadn't heated up yet, so it was yeah, I think it got stuck. Anyway, let me tell you how much I love this thing, and I'm going to give you some criticisms of it as well. I'm serious, guys. That has never happened before. I've owned this thing for almost a year, and that has never happened. It's really funny, actually. I'm kind of amused by that. I think what happened, though, is it built up some vacuum. Like I just said, because I started it up, I turned it on, and I immediately started firing it, and I hadn't let it heat up. Now, if there's solder in the chamber, and there's a vacuum built up in here from that, then it's going to get stuck. And that's what happened. Anyway, I was going to take this out of the video, but I'm going to leave it because it's funny. So this, the FR301 is kind of a budget, and I say budget, and this thing costs a little over $300. That's what I paid for this. But for 300 some odd bucks, this machine, this one tool has completely changed the amount of services and the amount of work that I can offer at a price that I can feel comfortable charging. With this tool, I can desolder an entire cap load of capacitor, an entire board full of capacitors in just about an hour. I can do an entire board, maybe an entire radio in some. I'm getting really good at this, so I could do an entire radio in almost an hour with this one tool. And all it does is it melts solder and it sucks it through the nozzle and puts it into this containment chamber. That's all it does, but that's all it needs to do. And it has a range of temperatures. I run it at almost its lowest setting, actually. I've got it down to position 1. No, between 1 and 2, so 4 to 700 C. I'm sorry, Fahrenheit. 6 to 750 Fahrenheit. And that's as high as I'll let it go. It saves the element when you do it that way, when you keep it down low. You don't want it too hot because you don't want to be burning boards. With this tool, I was able to replace a couple of connectors on my Apple II GS board that I could not do with any other method. I tried doing it with solder braid. I tried the old Radio Shack bulb desoldering tools, the little squeeze bulb. Nothing would do it. This thing, done. Had it done in seconds. And let's talk about durability and reliability for a moment. Again, like the FX888D, this is Japanese made, and I have something of a thing for Japanese manufacturing. They just care. They seem to care more about their stuff, and they have a reputation to uphold. Let me talk about some stuff that is both a credit to this machine, but also kind of a detraction, a major one. If you've ever wondered what happens when you leave a soldering iron on for a week, I can tell you. I've done it to both of these. The FX888D, I left it on for a solid week one time. I came down here to work on a radio. I'm like, oh, cool. My soldering iron's already hot. Before you freak out, do understand that equipment that is built to a standard, like national standards, global standards, is designed so that you can leave it on for an indefinite amount of time and it will not burst into flames, as long as it's not near anything combustible. Okay. Two things. These soldering iron stands, this one and this one, are designed They are designed to absorb the heat from the tip, or at least to allow it to radiate safely. In the case of this one here, it actually touches the hot end and it acts as a heat sink and draws the heat away. They're also on thermostats, so they will never get too hot. They will stay at their set temperature indefinitely until a mechanical failure or fire occurs. No, they won't catch fire. So this guy was left on for a solid week once, and then it was left on for a couple of days. The only thing that happened in both instances was I ruined the tip. Completely roached the tips. I've gone through 2 so far. Same with this one. Roached the tip. Tip is gone. No more tip. So the good thing is for $15, I buy a new tip and I'm off to the races again. Taking this thing apart. Now, I have used this on about 60 radios. And there's no joke. 60 freaking radios I've done with this one tool. And I mean, that may not seem like a lot, but for the amount of volume I anticipated when I started this, that's amazing. So it comes with this tip remover. You can remove the tip when this thing is hot. That's what this is designed for. It's got a silicone gripper built in. You just throw it on, twist, and it comes off just like that. There, you gotta squeeze it. There you go. You'll notice there's a lot of bluing. That's what happens when you leave it on for a week. It does discolor a little bit. But this thing is built like an animal. I mean, it is amazingly well made. It can take the abuse. If you're concerned at all, like will it handle, you know, some abuse from myself or my workers? Yes, that is a definite yes. I wouldn't drop this though, because the entire hot end is held in by a plastic, thermoplastic part. Now that could easily crack, and they do sell replacement parts. Another thing with Hacko is you can buy parts for this thing. You can buy tips, you can buy any part. They will sell you any part for this. That you can't say that about a lot of other companies, but Hacko will sell you any part. And they also sell the collection chamber filters. These are supposed to change when they start to discolor a little bit. I typically change these out about every 3 radios, maybe every 4 radios, because it does get a little clogged over time. I love this tool. Now, let's get to what I don't like about it. Okay. Remember how I said I left it on for a week solid? Well, that's because the pilot light is right here where I can't see it. So I know some people have their benches on a master switch. I don't do that. I probably should, but I don't. So this light right here is in the wrong spot. It only illuminates when the element is heating up. Remember, it's on a thermostat. So it illuminates red like that. You can't see it. You can't see it in the camera. Here. There we go. It illuminates red when the element is heating up. But when it's up to temperature, it stays off. And so that's just two things against it. What I would, if I were working for Hacko, or if Hacko is watching my videos, Hacko, I love your products, by the way, put the light over here where I can see it, or maybe put it somewhere where it can be seen easily. Maybe up here. Well, I'm left-handed, so I'm a little bit biased. I'd put it here. Or maybe here, if you're right-handed. Whatever. Put it anywhere else. Put it on the back. An LED can be placed anywhere in the chassis. Let's just be real. It can be placed anywhere in the chassis. And they put it in the one spot where I'm never going to see it. So when I'm holding it, I can't see it. When it's at rest, I can't see it. I'll give you one better. Maybe 2 LEDs on the back here. A green one and a red one. Or one LED that turns from green to red. So green meaning on, red meaning heating. It wouldn't take much. And it could save a life. This thing could have easily burst into flames because of, there's stuff around it. Now I try to keep an orderly workbench. I don't put my tools, next to books and stuff. But, it is still a hazard. So what I do, I've developed a habit of, when I leave my bench for even a minute, I reach over and I just grab the trigger, make sure it's not on. Because even the switch, it's a push button. It looks pretty much the same when it's on as it does when it's off at a quick glance. Obviously, they probably don't want you to leave it plugged in, but that's just not going to happen here. Move the LEDs. Change the configuration of the LEDs, and you've got a winner. I mean, it is a winner as it is, but I feel like that is a huge problem. A bigger problem than it needs to be. With the soldering station, I could just glance at it. It's got a nice bright LED display, and I can see it. When this is on, I can see a nice bright green light. Those two, or that unit right there, not so much. So let's move on to another piece of equipment that I bought. So I bought this from some recommendations from a few YouTubers. I think Triple E Vlog, or EEV Blog, sorry. And Louis Rossmann has sung the praises of this machine for as long as I've been watching him. The Quick 861 DW. This is actually Chinese origin. It is but I want to just take a pause for a second and say this. Not everything made in China is junk. There are some good companies in China that are producing quality products that are well respected across the industry. This is one of them. The Quick 861 DW is a digitally controlled digital temp and airspeed hot air rework station with 3 presets. Goes from I think the lowest setting is, I think it's 150, 100 degrees Celsius, all the way up to 500 Celsius, which in freedom units, that's it's almost 1,000 degrees. That's 932 degrees Fahrenheit. Yikes. I don't use it for anything higher than 300 Celsius. That's my standard setting that I use for desoldering. So let me tell you what I use this for. So I bought it for, because I eventually will be doing some surface mount work. I wanted a quality desoldering station, but I didn't want to pay Hacko money for something that I'm going to use very seldomly, and only for a few things. And from what I've been reading, the Quick 861 is actually better than the Hacko entry-level hot air station that's comparable. And it's priced way less. I think this sells for around about $350, $320. It was around the same price that I paid for the desolderer. And I actually already own one. Well, I don't own one, but I have one of these on my work bench at work, and the FX888D. So I actually have these two on my bench at work, and I use this thing at work to replace Chromebook power connectors and other stuff. I recycle them off of other boards, and this has been a tremendously good machine to use for that purpose. So I already had some experience with these, so I invested in this one for my own business. It gets very light use here. I use it primarily to desolder the unused the unused input and output connectors on my Bluetooth modules. These right here, the first thing I do with these boards is I rip these off because they're too tall to make them, so they don't allow the board to fit in the tight spaces that I need it to. So these are, I desolder these with the hot air station. But I also use it at its lower settings for shrink tubing. This thing's great for shrink tubing because I have a nice regulated 200 degrees Celsius source of heat that is just boom, boom, done. Very reliable piece of equipment. Now I actually did, because I knew it wasn't going to get used a ton, I bought a the lower end version of this, a smaller analog controlled quick I think it was a 950 something. I wasn't impressed with it. The build quality wasn't great. I just wasn't happy with it. It made a lot of noise. It just felt really chintzy in comparison to this. So I actually sent it back and I bought this from the same vendor. I think I bought it from not Tech Select, but there's a Tech Equipment. I think I bought it from Tech Equipment. Now, the 861DW has a magnetic sensor in the handle, so when you pick it up, it automatically turns on. I don't want it on. I actually don't want it on. And then what it does is it does a safe cool down when you put it back on the base. The base is nice and heavy. It doesn't fall over easily, and then it shuts down. So you never want to get it up to temperature and then just shut it off from the switch, because what will happen is it could actually cause heat damage to the element somehow, I guess. But I have actually had a cheap Chinese hot air station, and it was terrible, absolutely terrible. And this is not that. This is a quality piece of equipment, and really anyone who owns one will tell you that. So I really like this machine, and even though I don't use it a ton, it was worth the 300 some odd bucks I paid. Now let's talk a little bit about my multimeters. I've got two of them here. I only really use the one, the Fluke 45. I use this, of course, to test voltage points. I use it for checking for resistance when I'm trying to find a good ground. I use it for frequency counting. Not frequency counting, but I guess it's not really a frequency counter, but it will measure frequency when I'm adjusting my cassette deck's speed. This has been a very decent purchase. I bought it used. I believe it's about 30 years old. And on top of that, I have an 8012A Fluke that is just a basic multimeter. I don't use it that much anymore, but it does still work. Primarily, the work that I do here is kind of routine, just replacing capacitors, adjusting a few pots here and there, and that's about it. It's not really very involved, but I'd like to expand my capabilities and start to learn more about electronics as I move forward, which is why I've made a rather unusual investment. It's not here yet, but I bought a Ryol scope. Let me figure out what model I bought here. So not pictured is a Ryol DS1104Z. It'll be my very first oscilloscope. I'm going to use it more likely in place of the multimeters. I'm not getting rid of those, but I will be using it to bet. One of the things I want to do is to better visualize the tone generation from the cassette decks. Kind of get a better visual representation of what that looks like, so I can make more accurate adjustments, and to also visualize some of the output coming out of the amplifiers. I could have bought a cheaper 2-channel basic scope, but I figured if I'm going to buy one, I want to do it once. So I bought the 4-channel because it's just a little bit more money. And if I ever need to get rid of it, or if I decide to fold the business up, it's easier to sell a 4-channel than it is a 2-channel. That's not really the primary reason, though. But 100 megahertz scope is what it is. That's all I need. I don't need anything more than that, or anything less, to be honest. but the sample rate is 100 megahertz. I don't know anything about scopes. I know very, very little. Okay, I have used them in very specific settings where I was just looking at them and I was told, okay, if this does this, then fail. If it does that, it's good. I was testing diodes at a company that is no longer in existence called Microwave Device Technology out of Westford, Massachusetts. I was working there. It was just a temp job, and I was testing and etching diodes. And I had to use a scope, a multimeter, and a power supply. And I didn't really get a chance to play with the scope much. It just wasn't a thing. And I didn't have money to buy one on my own. But now that there are some very interesting or very quality bargain scopes on the market, such as the Ryol, which is, again, a Chinese but well-respected product from what I've been reading. They're good enough to be used in a lab setting. So that's good enough for me. They're targeted towards hobbyists and entry-level engineers. I'm more of a hobbyist in that regard. Hey, Tommy, what you want to do? You licking my feet. So I did buy that, and it's going to probably go right about here. I'm going to use it more or less in place of the multimeters. I don't know. I haven't really decided yet, but I'll have to rearrange my bench. But $500, that's a pretty good deal for something that is brand new in box. It includes 4 probes, everything you need to get started. And it's a pretty well-featured scope. And probably not as good as the, $12,000 Tektronix scopes. But for my purposes, it's all I need. And again, professionals are using these because they're just such an amazing bargain. And they are a decent product from what I've been reading. EEV Plug did a couple of teardown videos, and he seemed relatively impressed with them. So that's it's not like I'm buying, some no-name thing off Amazon, that'll break in 6 weeks. This is actually something reasonably useful. So I'm going to be learning, hopefully, how to use a scope. If anybody has any recommendations, please send them my way. And I've got a kitty who really wants my attention. And that's unique because he never, ever wants my attention. But now he does. So I'm going to take care of him. I think he needs a back massage. So we'll take care of Tommy. All right. Well, thank you all for watching. I think that covers all the equipment that I use and what I think of it. You can't beat, Apollo era power supplies. I just got to say, great power supply. Until then, guys, have a good one.